Hello everyone, welcome to Globe where maps meet motives. In a significant military escalation, the United States has conducted an airstrike on a strategic Iranian military facility. This sudden strike, confirmed by both US defense sources and satellite imagery, has pushed tensions in the Middle East to dangerous new levels. Iran has responded by placing its missile forces on high alert and has warned of a potential retaliation. Meanwhile, the United States has activated one of its most powerful military assets, the E-4B Night Watch, also known as the Doomsday plane. Is this a tactical warning, or are we now entering the early stages of a regional war? In this video, we will break down what exactly happened, why the US made this move, what Iran is planning in response, and what this means for the global stability and energy security. Let's begin. On the night of June 21, 2025, at approximately 2:17 am local time, multiple explosions were reported near a military installation in Isfahan in central Iran. Within hours, US defense officials confirmed that American forces had carried out a precision airstrike targeting a missile storage site believed to be operated by Iran's elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. According to US sources, the facility was storing medium-range ballistic missiles and drone systems that were allegedly being prepared for launch. The strike was reportedly launched from a US base in the Persian Gulf, involving stealth aircraft, most likely B-2 Spirit bombers or armed MQ-9 Reaper drones. Iran's air defense systems were not activated in time, and no interceptions were reported. Local Iranian sources initially described the blast as an internal accident, but international analysts quickly confirmed otherwise through satellite verification and thermal imagery. According to US defense officials, this was not a random act of aggression. This airstrike was carried out as a direct response to escalating threats from Iranian-backed forces. Over the past 2 weeks, US military bases in Syria and Iraq have come under repeated drone and rocket attacks, believed to be orchestrated by Iran's Quds Force, an elite arm of the IRGC. Just 3 days before the strike, Iranian drones were intercepted near Israeli airspace, sparking concerns of a coordinated offensive being prepared by Tehran and its regional allies. The US assessed that the targeted site in Isfahan was actively involved in storing and deploying missile systems that could be used against American forces or allies in the region. This operation was therefore described by Washington as a primitive defensive measure to neutralize an imminent threat. In simpler terms, the US believed an attack was coming and they acted first. Pentagon officials also clarified that the strike was limited in scope and did not target the civilian infrastructure, in an attempt to avoid escalation. However, the Iranian media has dismissed this explanation, calling the strike a violation of sovereignty and an act of war. The targeted Iranian facility in Isfahan province sustained significant damage. Satellite images released within 24 hours of the strike show that at least one weapons depot was completely destroyed, with secondary fires reported across the compound. According to independent defense analysts, the facility was believed to house ballistic missile components, unmanned aerial vehicle systems, and possibly shaded series drones, the same type exported to proxy forces across the region. Iranian officials have acknowledged the incident but claim only minor material damage, denying any major casualties. However, unofficial reports from the regional media suggest that 3 IRGC personnel were killed and up to 9 others were injured, though these numbers remain unverified. In terms of Iran's air defense response, no missiles were launched, indicating that either the systems failed to detect the incoming strikes or were deliberately held back to avoid escalation. More importantly, this event has raised serious questions about the readiness and vulnerability of Iran's military infrastructure. Within Iran, social media activity surged, with some civilians expressing concerns about the government's silence, while others called for swift retaliation. Just hours after the strike on Iran, flight trackers picked up something unusual. A US Air Force E-4B Night Watch aircraft, also known as the Doomsday plane, was observed airborne over the continental United States. This aircraft is not just another military transport plane, it is a flying nuclear command center specifically designed to allow the US President and military generals to command American nuclear forces during a crisis, even in the event of a ground-based communications blackout. The Doomsday is equipped with advanced communication systems, nuclear-hardened avionics, and can stay airborne for days with aerial refueling. While the plane's appearance does not confirm any nuclear escalation, its activation immediately after the US strike on Iran is widely interpreted as a strategic signal not just to Iran but also to Russia, China, and North Korea. In other words, the United States is communicating we are prepared for any kind of retaliation, conventional or otherwise. Interestingly, this is not the first time Doomsday plane has been airborne during moments of high tension. It was last tracked in similar fashion during the Ukraine crisis in 2022 and again during Taiwan Strait tensions in 2024. In the hours following the US strike on Iran, the world watched carefully but responded with a mix of silence, condemnation, and caution. The Iranian government was first to issue a formal statement, calling the attack a flagrant violation of sovereignty, and warning that the retaliation will be calculated and inevitable. But notably, Iran has not yet responded militarily, possibly indicating that its leadership is weighing options or coordinating with proxy groups. Meanwhile, Israel has neither confirmed nor denied any involvement, but reports suggest that high level of military coordination between US and Israeli defense agencies prior to the strike. In Moscow, the Russian Foreign Ministry condemned the US action, calling it provocative and destabilizing. Russia also requested an emergency session at the UN Security Council, though no formal action has yet been taken. China, on the other hand, urged all parties to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could escalate regional tensions. The European Union issued a brief statement expressing concern over the growing conflict and urging diplomatic channels to be reopened. On the economic front, global markets began to react. Oil prices surged over 5% within hours of the strike. The Brent crude index hit its highest point in over 9 months, and stock markets across Asia opened lower, with defense stocks rallying. These early movements could reflect investor concerns that a border conflict could endanger the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which over 20% of the world's oil passes daily. If that choke point is threatened, the global energy market and the supply chains worldwide could be significantly disrupted. With Iran threatening retaliation, the US signaling that it is ready for escalation, the situation remains highly unpredictable. The first major variable now is Iran's response. Will Tehran launch a direct missile strike against a US base in the Gulf region? Or will it activate its network of proxy militants such as Hezbollah in Lebanon or the Houthis in Yemen to strike US or Israeli interests indirectly? The second major flashpoint lies in the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran chooses to block or disrupt traffic through the narrow waterway, even temporarily, it could send the global oil prices high and create a maritime security crisis. A third scenario is cyber retaliation. Iran has previously carried out sophisticated cyber attacks on energy and banking infrastructure in the West. On the other hand, there's also a possibility that diplomacy reopens, not through formal negotiations but back-channel talks mediated by neutral players like Oman, Qatar and Switzerland. But one thing is clear, the rules of engagement in West Asia are shifting rapidly. The US has now demonstrated that it will act unilaterally and beforehand if its red lines are crossed. For the world and especially countries like India, Japan and China which depend heavily on the Middle Eastern oil, the next few days are critical. The conflict may not go to full scale yet, but it's safe to say the region has entered a new phase of strategic instability. What do you think comes next? Will this conflict escalate or are we looking at a short-lived warning strike? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you found this video valuable, consider subscribing for global geopolitics explained with clarity and neutrality. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.